local shop nearby. They'll have it if you just ask. Yeah, of course. It just smells really good. I want to I want to smell this all the time. I go through it really fast. I use it a lot. All right, you guys. So now I have some people here. So hello, hello. So for those of you that don't know who I am, my name is Daisy Farrell, and I'm a psychic medium and healer. And I'm super happy that you're here with me today. Today, I've been doing a bit of a series, kind of, about just different things about mediumship. Yeah, see Cassidy. Yeah, listen to Cassidy. And today, I'm going to talk about common myths in mediumship, because that's like a very big one for me. It's something that I'm very passionate about talking to other people about, especially now, because I just feel like it's out of control with just all the information that's out there, all the stuff on TV, all kinds of stuff, right? There's so much information out there and different kind of portrayals of mediumship, and a lot of them are not correct and kind of aggravate me a little bit. So I really like to be able to dispel some of those myths. You know, I try to really give people the truth, at least from my perspective, right? Not everyone's going to agree with me. That's totally fine. This is just really from my own experience, my perspective. But I want to just help kind of give better perspective on the work of mediumship and what it's like to be a medium, all of that, okay? And as I'm going along today, if you have any questions related to mediumship of any kind, please feel free to add that in the comments, and I'll do my best to answer it for you if I get time. I should have time, but just let me know. You know, feel free to ask anything you want. It doesn't have to be about a myth. It can be any mediumship related question or anything that's been coming up, okay? So, how cute is this grape agate? I just got this, and I love it. I also love this citrine. How pretty is that? Okay. And I'm just checking here to make sure we're still good. Looks like we're good. All right, here we go, guys. So pretty, right? I always want to eat grape agate, too. It's so fun. All right, you guys. So, myth number 1. That is that mediums are always correct. And wrong. So this is, you know, and a lot of these myths that I'm going to talk about is stemming from a few things. Not all of them, but quite a few of them, for example, come from, hi Pamela, come from, for example, mediumship TV shows, okay? So that's been kind of it's kind of like bittersweet to me, because I think it's awesome that mediumship has become more mainstream. It's becoming more popular. It's being shown to more people on a much wider audience, right? For example, like the Long Island Medium. Who's the other guy? Tyler Henry, I believe that's his name. Who's like the Hollywood medium, right? I know there's another girl too. I'm forgetting her name right now. But there's a lot. There's quite a few TV shows now of mediums that feature mediums. They're basically all reality TV shows, right? And I think that's great. I think it's great that they're out there. It shows people that it's like really, you know, a thing. It's real, and what it can do for people as well. But these are the main issues surrounding that stuff. A lot of the myths kind of come from here, right? So that one that I just said, being that mediums are always correct. That is so not true. It's so not true. And that myth especially, I think, is coming from TV shows. Because, for example, if you watch the Long Island Medium, you watch one of those shows, right? Have you ever noticed a scene where they're giving a reading and the person says, no, I don't get that, or no, I don't think that's correct? No, right? Because they edit it out. And I think that's unfortunate. I kind of wish that, yeah, I mean, I have, you know, plenty of respect for her. But again, it's just the TV show is just so edited, where it's like, I just, you know, they're getting stuff wrong, for sure, right? They get stuff wrong. Because here's the thing, mediumship is not a perfect science by any means. And I think also, especially if you look at stuff in movies, they make it look like it's this effortless just gift where it's just you stream, consciousness and you are always correct and it's just earth shattering, right? And hey, that would be awesome if that was the truth. It'd be so easy, right? But there's a lot more to it than that, right? It takes a lot of hard work, a lot of dedication. Of course, like especially if there's natural ability there, it's not like always super hard, right? But we're not always going to get things correct. That's just part of it. It's just part of how that goes. And one thing that a teacher has said to me was like, it's not that we're wrong a lot of the times, but we're not interpreting something correctly, right? And that's totally normal. Because if you think about what we're doing, it's a very difficult thing. It's a very subtle thing. And sometimes, I think another big piece here is that sometimes there's certain things that are just missing from our own vocabulary. And when I talk about that, I mean our own life experience. So for example, there may be something where I'm bringing through someone, right? And I have no reference of my own personal experience to talk about a certain career they had, right? And sometimes that can, spirit can kind of go around that and use more symbolic stuff that I would recognize to get around that roadblock. But sometimes it doesn't work, right? So again, sometimes I'm wrong. And another big one too that you'll notice is like there could be like the best mediums in the world, some of the best mediums ever, right? I guarantee you they've all had some readings where the person was like, that was terrible, right? And it doesn't mean that they're a bad medium. I think a great way of looking at this too is think about this. Any like pro football player or like a pro sports player, right? They have like one bad game where they really screw up, right? Do they lose their job? Do they stop playing football? No, right? They don't. They just keep going, and they do what they keep doing, and they're still good. And no one, like, all of a sudden just says, oh, well, they can't be a football player anymore, right? It's the same kind of thing with mediumship. It's an ability, it's a skill, right? And it's not always perfect. It's not always going to be great. And that has to do with a lot of different factors, some of the things that I brought up before. But it can also have stuff to do with just the person you're bringing through, right? I mean, for example, for me, sometimes readings will be more challenging for me if I just don't vibe with the person on the other side. And that may sound kind of weird, but it's true because it's a relationship. It's a connection. So just like with living people, right? Sometimes we're not going to totally jive with maybe the person on the other side. And communication might be a little more tricky, right? So that's a big one. So always keep that in mind because I've had, and I'm sure I know a lot of mediums have this experience, right, where people will come to them and their only experience that they've ever had with mediumship is through those TV shows. So they show up to the reading immediately expecting, like, you need to be 100% accurate the whole time, otherwise this is a joke, right? And that's tough, right? That's tough to handle. It's just part of that work, right? But that's a big one that I like to just bring up. Again, doesn't mean that the medium sucks. It doesn't mean that they're bad. They're human, right? It's just being a human. Let me just see the comments here. Literally, doctors who have studied for years can wrongly diagnose. We are all human about it. Exactly, Cassidy. Perfect example. Crossover readings happen. Readings of someone we know that is affecting us. Totally. So that's number one. Second one here. Oh, hi, Isabel. So I'm actually not doing readings right now, but I am happy to let you know when I do some readings online, but I'm not doing them right now, okay? But thanks for joining. So another myth here is that we are constantly bombarded by dead people. Like we can't get sleep, we can't live a normal life, we are just constantly being bombarded and attacked, and we're just like, oh my god, we're so overwhelmed with all this dead people stuff, right? For a good example of this is like The Sixth Sense or movies like that, right? I feel like that's more in movies that you see that. You'll see so many movies that portray mediums, right, where they're like doing what they're just trying to live their life, and then some scary like dead person shows up and they can't focus, they can't pay attention to anything. Again, totally not true. Here's the thing with that. When it comes to that, it's that I think when we first open up and we're starting out, and maybe if we don't know what we are, we can experience something like that, right? You can sometimes experience being bombarded, feeling overwhelmed, feeling super anxious. And that totally happened to me, for sure. Like, for a while, that did happen to me. But again, that's something that can very easily be resolved, and isn't something that you just if you're a medium, that's just how your life is always going to be. That's not true at all. For me, when I started out, I did experience severe anxiety, panic attacks. I felt like I was constantly being bombarded, and it was very overwhelming. I didn't like going into public places. I didn't like going to work. Like, I didn't like doing anything. I felt so overwhelmed. And that's normal. That is normal. But the thing is that I feel like sometimes, especially in movies, they make it seem like you're just stuck with that, and that can't be fixed, and that you can't learn to find a balance here. So that's not true. The thing is that you can. And really, for me, what it was that I just had to work through development. I had to work through learning what all of this was, understanding it at a deeper level, and being able to have more control over it. This is the other thing that I think is a big myth, is that we have no control. That we have no control over what comes through. We have no control over what's going on. Again, not true at all. We have full control. So, because I think sometimes the mediums will even say that, like, oh, well, I just bring through what I get. I'm just giving you what I got. I have no control over that. Again, that's not true. Like, we have control. We have control. It's a relationship. It's two sides, because it's spirit world and you, and they want to work with you, right? They don't want to work against you. They just want to get their messages across. And so they're not going to overwhelm you if you just make that really clear. So again, there's a lot of different aspects to working on that and resolving it and making it better, which it was for me. For me, it was, going through development, going through just, as I started to do readings, right, that also really helped with that anxiety, because I was just letting that energy more move through, as opposed to just getting kind of stuck. And also learning just boundaries, like learning how to not always be open all the time, right? I think the thing is that sometimes when you're a natural medium, like, yeah, to a certain degree, you're always going to be aware, you're always going to be open, but you become used to it, in a way where you're able to kind of, well, the best way that I can explain it for me, like how it works, is if I go in a public place or I go out or whatever, I really don't, I'm not focused on that, right? But I'll have a moment sometimes where I kind of, so for example, right, it's like I'm looking here when I'm just doing regular stuff and I'm just in everyday mode, and then I'm choosing to look over here, which is spirit world, right? So it's very easy, very simple, but I'm able to really keep it separated. So I can choose to look over there, and sometimes that will happen to me where I'll be in a public place and I'll look on that side and I'll be like, whoa, okay, a lot of people here, but then I can just pay back attention to just being in regular mode. And I don't get like attacked, I don't get bombarded, right? That's very rare, like sometimes, okay? Like sometimes that will happen, but it's very rare for that to happen. And again, it's also, even if it does happen, it's very easy to just kind of move past it. And you're like, okay, like you can choose what you do with it and you can move forward. So again, we're not like constantly being like attacked or freaked out and all of that, okay? So here's another one. So that, yeah, this is another one. That we are always walking around in public just giving messages to people. No. Again, that also, this is like the second one where I get mad about like the TV show deal, right? Because especially like in Long Island Medium, they really make it seem like, oh, I'm just at the grocery store and then, oh my God, like I have to give this message to this random person that I don't know. That's so inappropriate. Like, you don't do that. Please don't do that. First off, that's also not a good portrayal of this, because the people that are on that TV show, they've already signed like a waiver, they've already agreed to getting read on the show, right? So they already know what's happening. It's not like they're just a random person that just is getting, all of a sudden just is getting a reading without their permission, right? That's super inappropriate. And I would never ever tell someone to do that. I totally understand where, and like, don't get me wrong, like this has happened to me many times too, where like you'll be in a public place and you feel spirit wanting to give a message to someone that you're nearby. But I never, there's like a rule. It's like a rule for me, right? I'm not going to just go up to a stranger and deliver a message, because first of all, you don't know the person. You don't know even if they believe in that stuff, right? We don't know what their current mental state is. We don't know what else is going on in their life. We have no idea if that could really upset the person. And maybe they don't want to hear some message, right? Maybe they don't want to hear from this person. And maybe they don't want a message at all, right? And that's totally their right. So often when that happens for me, is I'll say to the spirit person, I'll say, I thank you for bringing this to my attention. And I fully trust that if you want to make this happen, where I deliver this message to your loved one, that you will make that happen in another time and place. So meaning that they would somehow get this person to maybe get a reading with me at one point, right? But it's up to spirit, and I trust that. I trust divine timing. I trust the whole process. But I'm not going to break someone's personal space like that and just deliver a message because I have to, right? If somebody says that, that's really more coming from their ego. It's more coming from like themselves. It's not really the spirit, right? So I really don't like that whole thing with the TV show. And let me just see here. Yeah, no, you would never get any sleep. Exactly. Is there always spirits that you see, or is it objects and other things? That's a great question, and I will absolutely answer that for you. All right, I'll answer it right now. So, well, because one thing I was going to say here. All right, well, so basically, no, I see all kinds of things is the answer to that question. Now, it's different for everybody. So one thing actually, so this kind of stems off of another myth I was going to talk about, was that all mediums will see dead people, like as if they are right in front of them, like as a regular person, right? Great example of that is the movie Sixth Sense. Great movie, but it's not really accurate all the time, right? If that was the case, that would be pretty unsettling, right? And it would be pretty hard to function. It's not to say that that doesn't happen, because what I will say is that some people do see dead people, like I'm seeing a person standing right in front of me, and in their actual field of vision, and we'll see different things, right? And that's more rare, though. That's less common. It's much more common to see things clairvoyantly. So this is internal. So as if I tell you to close your eyes and visualize a puppy, right? Same idea, okay? So for me, personally, I do see some things externally, so with my real eyes, but I don't see, full-bodied, like, people that are, like, covered in blood and all this, like, they make that so scary looking, right, in movies. It's not like that at all. I'll see, orbs or shadows or, different little things like that. Auras, much more subtle, not as, like, in your face, right? Again, some people do see that stuff, but again, it's pretty uncommon. Most of the time, I'm seeing all of this stuff internally. And I'll also just I'll hear, and I'll have an awareness, I'll feel. So it will be kind of a combo of all of my clear senses, right? So if I'm in a public place and I decide to pay attention to that side, I'll see all this stuff internally. And I will see people, I'll see people, but I never see people like how they look when they pass. Because here's another example, like, if you or me were on the other side, why would we want to show ourselves like that to another person, right? We probably don't, right? That's more like a horror movie thing, okay? We're just showing ourselves, really, anytime that I see someone, they're showing me as the way they want to be seen, the way that they want to be remembered, the way that the person that is sitting for me wants to be described as, right? And just to kind of elaborate also on your question there, Amanda, is so like yeah, I'll see objects, I'll see people, I'll see places. It's often a combo. So like when I first have a connection, I'll often see part of a person. I almost never see the entire person. That's pretty rare that I do. So usually, for example, like I'll see a woman with no face from like maybe like the shoulders up. And then sometimes I'll see like a person from like just like a fragment of them. And again, this is just me. It's very interesting, but and sometimes I'll see some people from behind or just like fragments of them. And then from there, typically, I kind of go into them in a way where it's like I'm seeing the world from their eyes. And they'll show me a lot of memories. They'll show me experiences they had as them, basically, in their body. And then I'll also see things from outside, so I'll be seeing like images of different things. So for example, like I was connecting with this one person that worked at a grocery store, and I was actually seeing this from outside of his body. So I was seeing him from basically like here down, but he was at a checkout thing, right? And I saw that he had like a tag, and I saw his name, and I saw him scanning things. And then sometimes I'll see like just a random car, or I'll see, all kinds of things, right? So that's the main answer to that. It's all kinds of stuff. But again, I'm predominantly clairvoyant. That's another thing to keep in mind. So every medium's different. Some mediums are not predominantly clairvoyant, meaning that they're visual, right? So they may not see a lot of stuff. They may more just get their information more clairaudiently or clairsentiently, so just knowing and feeling things. And it still gives the same effect of a message. It's just everybody's different. So then, okay, so let's see. Here's another one. So another myth is that we constantly have to be worried about being like possessed, and we have to worry about protecting ourselves from negative entities, and we're always going to be worried about that. Totally incorrect. One of the simplest ways to just see the answer to that is just think about all the people that are mediums, right? And especially just me, knowing so many people that are mediums and do this full time. I've never had any problem with that. They've never had that experience. And if we did, we wouldn't want to do this full time, right? Think about that. Why would somebody want to pursue this work full time if they always had to be concerned about that? It just isn't true. I think that's a whole other live I could probably do, right? Talking about negative entities and all of that. I think it's very complicated, but I also think that a lot of it is not correct and isn't true. And a lot of it has to do with perspective, and a lot of people don't realize that a lot of it is their own stuff, their own fear that is fueling that kind of stuff, those beliefs, right? And again, some people are totally going to disagree with that, and that's totally fine. I think it also has a lot to do with just people's individual experience of this stuff. My personal opinion when it comes to hauntings and different things like that is that hauntings are not the actual soul of the person. They are a fragment of them that is just left behind due to energy just being recorded in places. I think that's very normal. Energy just gets left behind, gets recorded in places, but it's not the person. So like, for example, I think something that you'll hear so often is somebody that had this like horrible, tragic death in a place, right? Their spirit is stuck there, forever experiencing this tragedy over and over again. That's not true. First of all, that's terrible. Why would God like do that to someone, right? They've already had to experience something like this. That's horrible. I truly believe, and this is really also just from everything I've experienced myself, is that people, they pass on. They're not stuck, especially if they've had a horrible way of passing. They're not stuck in that place. If anything, again, it's just a fragment, a memory, a piece of what happened there and the energy there. So you can absolutely, I think that's the other thing. Sometimes people just don't, they misinterpret this stuff, right? So you could go to a place that had something really horrible happen there, right? Like a murder or something. And you could totally feel that. and feel negative energy and feel uncomfortable, right? But it's not what we're thinking it is. It's not something attacking you. It's not something that's going to harm you or attach itself to you. You're just picking up on what happened there. That's it. So that's really just my own personal belief on that. But again, because I really like to help people with the fear stuff, because that's a big one. There's so much fear around spiritual world, around mediumship, that doesn't really need to be there. So then another one here is, right, that we aren't like normal people, right? I think a lot, I think the TV shows sometimes kind of help with that, definitely. I think we've made progress as far as that goes, I think the whole cliche of just like a psychic, is like the neon sign in the window with the big turban and like the crystal ball. It's not like that, right? Some people do that, but that's more performance to me than anything, right? But mediums are really, they're just people. They're just normal people like anybody else. They have a normal life besides just doing mediumship, right? And that's good. You should have balance. You should have a normal life. And it doesn't have to be all the time mediumship. It would be unhealthy if it was. That's one thing that I always encourage people that I'm teaching, is just that, mediumship can't be like everything and all of your life, right? It should be a part of it. And it's really important to maintain that balance and nurture the other parts of who you are and your life. So that's another big one right there, that we are normal people. Another one here, I'm just checking my notes. Well, also that we're like perfect, right? That we're these perfect like spiritual gurus that are meditating 24/7 and we have no like personal problems. Not true. Again, not true. We're people. So just like anybody else, just because we do spiritual work full time does not mean that we don't have our own healing to work on. It does not mean that we don't have our own personal problems that we have to navigate through. We're normal people, just like anybody else. And it's silly to think that just because we do this, right, it doesn't mean that we get to bypass that. I mean, some people like to do that, right? That's called spiritual bypassing. But I really encourage people not to, because that also hinders the work that you're doing when it comes to mediumship, right? Because you're the filter. So if you have some personal problems or some stuff that you haven't healed or worked on, that's going to alter and affect the information that you bring through. And then let me see here. Oh yeah, here's another one. Okay. So that like we're constantly reading your mind. Okay. No thanks. I mean, like, I don't want to read your mind all the time, right? But that's happened to me actually a lot, when maybe I've become friends with people or something, and then they find out what I do, and then all of a sudden they're kind of scared of me. And they're like afraid that I'm going to read their mind or like know things that they don't want me to know. And again, not true. Like if somebody is a good person and they have good boundaries and ethics in their mediumship and psychic work, that is not something to be concerned about. I think it does happen, I guess, where there's definitely an issue with personal boundaries and different things like that. I've seen that a lot, unfortunately, with psychics. But me personally, like, that's something that I'm very, very careful about, something that I care about a lot. It's just when I'm out and about doing things, I don't want to just be reading people's minds. I mean, they're not giving me permission to do that, right? They're not giving me permission. They don't want to be read. And I don't really want to know, right? I don't necessarily want to just know all this stuff about people. So no, I'm not going to go probing into your head and trying to figure out different things, right? That's just totally inappropriate and a lack of boundaries right there. Again, unfortunately, and this is very true with just mediumship in general, because there isn't really any kind of way to certify people and make sure that there's a code of ethics that are always carried out. You will get an inappropriate kind of overcross with boundaries. And I hate it when that happens. It's just wrong. I mean, you shouldn't be doing that. People should give you permission, and then you can read them, in a fair way, right? But no, we don't just read your mind constantly. We don't do that, right? So don't worry about that. Let's see, what else? And then also, another big one is that all mediums are con artists, right? And that they're taking advantage of people. So here's the thing. I'm not saying that that doesn't happen. It's very unfortunate, and it does happen, unfortunately, a lot. A lot. And I absolutely hate that. Again, like kind of what I was just talking about was that, unfortunately, there's no college. I mean, there's schools, right? But when it comes to mediumship, it's not like you have to go and get a degree and get certified in order to practice. You don't. You can kind of just do whatever and just go for it and offer those services. And sometimes that's totally okay because some people just naturally have good boundaries, training, understanding. But most of the time, they don't. And they're kind of misguided and they don't have proper training. Another thing that you'll see a lot of times is there's like certain programs out there where someone can do a mediumship class for 2 days and then they get this certificate saying that they're a certified medium. I think that's really scary because I think mediumship takes years of training, years of dedication, and getting feedback from many different people that have years of experience, right? And there's so much going on that you need to learn, especially with ethics. So unfortunately, I mean, here's the thing. So unfortunately that happens. It does happen where you'll get people that just don't have the proper training. They may have ability, right? But they just don't quite have the right training and they're misguided. And so they're harming people. Sometimes they don't mean to. But unfortunately, there's also people that do mean to. But and that gives mediumship kind of a bad name, unfortunately. And it makes it harder for the people that really are good, right? To be trusted sometimes. So I just try to do the best I can to uphold that standard, right, for anybody that comes in contact with me. But basically my point is that not every medium is a con artist and is trying to take advantage of you. It's not true. Now, there's some people that just believe that, and they're always going to think that no matter what you do. And again, that's fine. That's their opinion. There's nothing you can really do about that, right? And then let me make sure here. And if you guys have any questions, let me know because I'm happy to answer them about mediumship. And then let me check here. What else? I think that's basically it, you guys. I mean, I'm trying to think of other stuff, but those are kind of like the main myths that I often will see. So again, just kind of backtracking here, thinking about TV shows and movies. Don't just use that as your education, please. Because it's not an accurate portrayal of a lot of things involved in mediumship. Mediumship is a lot more complex than that, and it's not so black and white, like in the way that it's portrayed, right? So I hope that this just helped kind of shed a little light on some of that stuff for you guys, and I'm really excited. I have a beginner's mediumship course starting November 10th, so in about 2 weeks. And I have such great people already enrolled. And if you're interested, if you feel like exploring mediumship and just getting started and you don't really know where to go with it, I really recommend just checking it out. I will put the link in the comments so that you guys can read all the details. And you can, of course, feel free to private message me if you have any questions or concerns or just anything that you want to talk about regarding mediumship or the course that's coming up. Thanks, Cassidy. The great thing with that, too, is I actually just decided to keep my early bird pricing for the course. So it's a really good deal. And it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. And we're going to talk about all this stuff in that course. Like, I'm going to really help everybody with foundational stuff and ethics and working on fear and blocks and all of that good stuff. So it's going to be really great. Also, we have an amazing, me and Laura Mazzato, we have an amazing retreat coming up this May. And we literally only have 2 spots left. It's crazy. We have a gorgeous location that we booked about a month ago. And it's beautiful. And I can't wait. And it's going to be so amazing. So I will also put the link for that in the comments too. If any of you guys are interested, it's going to be amazing. And Cassidy's going to be there. So you should go. And we'll have lots of fun. And that's about it, you guys. So if you guys are seeing this on the replay and you have any other questions or anything, let me know, and I'm happy to just answer them or go live again. I'm probably going to do some more lives just on more mediumship stuff, so I will definitely do that and let you guys know I can answer more of your questions, okay? Yay! All right. Have a good Wednesday, everybody. Bye!